Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. It's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too. Thank you so much for your time. It's such an honor to have you.
It's great to be here with you. It's Shelly, right?
Yeah, Shelly, my content is in Hebrew, so I have a big audience in Israel. I posted about our interview, kind of like I posted like a teaser of you speaking in another show, and it just people went crazy. People love you in Israel.
That's
So
awesome. Well, I love Israel. Bring it on.
thank you.
I've,
Thank you so
I've
much.
actually got some dear friends visiting Israel right now. They're there
Yeah.
right now.
Oh, really? No
Oh,
way.
yeah. Yep.
Very cool.
They're
Very
they're
cool.
there right now. I've been there for 3 weeks now. And anyway, they're awesome. Love it.
Nice.
I'm glad they're all excited. I'm excited too.
Good,
Mhm.
good. Same here. I'm a little bit nervous, but
Don't
I
be nervous. I'm the
uh,
one nervous. Just let me be nervous. No, I'm just
okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Today, we're joined by Dr. Brian Ardis, one of the most fearless and respected voices in alternative medicine, a best-selling author, host of the Dr. Ardis Show, and co-creator of the Healing for the Ages conference. Dr. Ardis has exposed decades of medical deception and empowering millions with natural, holistic solutions. From vaccine safety to hospital protocols, he is on a mission to uncover the truth and help people reclaim their health and freedom. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ardis. How are you today?
I am thrilled and honored to be hanging out with you, Shelly, and hi to everybody at home and in the audiences. I'm very excited to spend some time with you today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm just gonna jump right to it. Even some of our audience had some questions for you that I added in here. Um, but the first thing, I just want to learn a little bit more about you because I started seeing your videos from like many other people around the world. Some of your videos, I don't know if you noticed, but some of your clips went completely viral recently on social media. And I'm just kind of like I'm wondering if you always been aware of what's happening? Like, was there a turning point for you that made you wake up and step away from the system and speaking out? Or I'm just very curious to hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yes, there's been a lot of mention around the world of clips that have gone viral on different health topic points that I keep highlighting. And very recently, there's been very specific topics that have captured the imagination of a lot of people, and they just keep sharing these clips and these truths. And before we even dive into anything, I'm going to actually answer here in this thing. I want everybody to know I will not give an answer to anything I don't know. So I will say, I don't know. But if you ask me a question about something I know, it's going to be knowledge I acquired from a specific medical research study that's been peer reviewed and published. So everything I'm going to say, if I have an answer to it, it's because I'm quoting out of a medical research study I've already been through, dissected, and actually reviewed. So I am very much a show and tell guy. So if I'm going to answer something, I promise you, if you don't see me show you the evidence in this interview, that evidence exists either on my website, in my book, and it's referenced to the research studies there. So there's going to be some things that the mainstream media, which is really controlled by the pharmaceutical giants around the world, they don't want you knowing these truths. So they've been conditioning you to believe a specific narrative about health. And so when I come out and show you stuff that the medical community has been researching and already confirming, which are going to be healing principles found in nature primarily. When I tell you these things, this is very different than what most people are accustomed to hearing. And which is why I think so many things I show and tell out of medical research studies get so much viral attention because it's things they've never been told before to know was true. So, when did that all start for me? Actually, I was 21 years old and I was actually dead set to go to medical school to be a medical doctor or a medical researcher. That's really all I wanted to get into. Now, the reason why I decided to become a medical doctor was not because I thought my whole life that's what I wanted to do. No, I only thought about becoming a medical doctor when my sister My younger sister, I'm the oldest of five. She was 11 years old when I was 21. She was told by the medical profession, which is this diagnosis and prognosis of my younger sister's problems is what made me want to go off and be a medical doctor. They told my parents that my sister had a autoimmune disease at age 11 called systemic lupus, lupus for short. And they told my parents that she would never be cured of that illness. They actually told her, my parents, they didn't know what caused all of her pain throughout her body, called lupus. All they knew was there was three drugs she had to live on for life, is what they told my mom and dad. She had to live on these three drugs for the rest of her life. And over the next 3 decades, those drugs would kill her kidneys and her liver, and she would die from the failure of those organs. But she had to be on those drugs because there was no known cause of her pain and there was no known cure. And I actually looked at my parents, Shelly, that day, and I said, I'm not going to let that profession kill my sister because they don't know what's wrong with her. That's weird. Why, if they're telling you we don't know what causes your pain or your problem, why are we going to do what they say about drugs that'll ultimately kill her early before she's 40? In the next 3 decades, she was going to die. And then they told her one of the drugs she had to live on is called methotrexate. It's chemotherapy, actually, in a pill form. They said she had to live on that for the rest of her life, and that would actually not allow her to bear children. So she would be infertile the rest of her life. So I told my parents that day, I'm going to become a medical doctor and I'm going to learn everything I can about how the human body works. And let's get into research maybe to see, does the medical profession research the causes of disease, like the named disease they gave my sister of lupus? Well, the truth is, when I ventured off then to go to med school, was preparing for the MCAT, I had a bunch of medical doctors I was looking at as future colleagues were saying things to me that didn't make sense and didn't add up. And I became very disenfranchised within 3 years and decided then to go to chiropractic school, acupuncture school, become a nutritionist, and learn everything I could about how the human body was designed, how does it detox things that cause illness. And then I studied underneath a bunch of doctors around the United States who were considered functional doctors who actually looked for the underlying cause of diseases and then helped to eradicate those over time by educating the patients through diet and detox principles and nutrition. And as I got to watch them transform people's health, I decided this is my avenue to try to, one, help my sister and then help people around the world. And what people don't know yet, primarily a lot of people, is I actually was in practice from 2004 to 2018. I owned two different practices in Tennessee and Texas in the United States. And we served over 16,000 people from 16 different countries. And I was able to help these people reverse, for the majority of them, all of their suffering they were told by the medical profession they could never live without. And the truth is, if you keep seeing medical doctors, that's what they're going to tell you because that's what they've been trained. They've been trained and taught your body is incapable of healing itself from the suffering and pain it lives with. No, that's not true, actually. That's just what they've been told. And they're just repeating the lie back to you. And then they're telling you you can only take drugs. Well, guess who told them you can only give people drugs? The drug companies that wrote their curriculum in their medical schools. So for 20 something years before COVID-19 started, I had been dismantling all of the lies of the pharmaceutical industry and the medical profession that they were telling to my patients and to my family. And as one patient after another, after we would unwind the causes for all their suffering, we would watch all of their lives transform spiritually, emotionally, and their relationships. And then physically, they would be free of the symptoms they were told they would be a slave to the rest of their life. So I've been doing that my whole adult life. Now in 2020, February of 2020, my father-in-law, my wife's dad, who I adore and love, walked into a hospital here in Dallas, Texas, and was dead within 10 days. And the protocol they used killed him. The drugs they used shut down his kidneys, flooded his lungs with water, and they called it pneumonia, and he never had pneumonia. Never even tested positive for pneumonia, even when they tested him. It came back negative, and then the actual hospital lied to my family and said that he tested positive for pneumonia. No, he didn't. They also said the reason for admitting him was because he tested positive for the flu. which we only found out 5 days later, also he did not test positive for. So they lied to us and to him and said he tested positive for a viral infection. They started a drug protocol for that viral infection he did not test for. And those drugs they used caused his kidneys to fail. They actually increased the water retention in his lungs, and he drowned to death in 11 days. And on day 7, when I went into the hospital and challenged the medical doctors to change the protocols and reclaim his life, I was threatened with security and kicked out of the hospital and was told the medical profession would never talk to me again because I was not a blood relative of my father in law, Weldon. Well, if you read my best selling book worldwide, it's called Moving Beyond the COVID-19 Lies. The whole reason why I'm sitting here with you, all of you at home, and on Shelly's program here, is because I took a stand for all the people I did not know in my entire life, that I knew around the world were going to be lied to, that faith and trust for your health when you're challenged with COVID-19 rested inside of hospitals. No, it wasn't. That same protocol killed my father in law in February 2020. 3 months later, Dr. Anthony Fauci in the United States made that the mandated treatment protocol of choice for all hospital Americans. And that's when I went into the media to educate everybody what was causing the kidney failure that all COVID-19 patients were experiencing in hospitals that led to their deaths. They were calling COVID pneumonia. It wasn't COVID pneumonia, it was pulmonary edema, water flooding into their lungs, their own bodily fluids, because the drug remdesivir, like the drug they gave my father-in-law, shut down their kidneys in 24 hours, and the kidneys eliminate water. Well, as they're pumping IV fluids into the patient, that fluid can't leave. It's going to accumulate in your body, in your abdomen, and eventually into your lungs, and you will drown to death. So this is why I went into the media, was try to protect as many people as possible. And it has ended up that a lot of the medical profession and people in alternative healthcare and lay people around the world, when I break things down for them and explain it to them how the human body works and how nutrition benefits it, drugs deteriorate it, there's a lot of people that find that the way I articulate things and show them things and explain it to them makes a lot of sense. And then their common sense, their rationale allows them to see the difference between medical programming through the media and then what truth and common sense and science has already proven, which is nature is better than drugs at healing the human body. But the drug companies don't want you to know that. And they're the ones funding your medical research. They're the ones funding your media. So they always want you to see trust drugs, trust medicine, when in fact, 99% of all symptoms, all diseases ever around the world are simply caused by a vitamin or mineral deficiency. But they don't want you to know that. They want you to believe all symptoms are a drug deficiency. So you need a prescription to go to your pharmacy to get a drug from us. No, that's not true. You've all been lied to. We have all been lied to.
And yeah, true that. I couldn't agree with you more. Nature definitely beats chemicals and drugs for sure. I think it's a basic common sense, but a lot of people are not aware of that. And I wanted to jump into a question that I got from many parents especially in Israel, that contact me because they're deeply concerned about aggressive childhood vaccination schedule. What would you say to those mothers, to those parents that are unsure or scared about following all kinds of official guidelines? And because I know you're more you're educated about the North American vaccine schedule. I'll tell you what's happening in Israel. In Israel, babies receive 10 different vaccinations, 10 different vaccines, sorry, and around 29 doses by the age of 2, including some stuff that I can't even probably can't even say correctly: hepatitis B, DTaP, HIV, IPV, PCV, and so on and so on, influenza. What would you say to those parents? Are their concerns valid, or what should they do?
All parents, please listen to me in Israel or anywhere around the world who's watching Shelly's podcast and program. Your hesitation and your want to learn more is completely warranted. So you're going to be told that by the age of 2 years old, you need to have your children in Israel and in all other countries, including America. You have to have so many vaccines injected into your baby. In the United States, all of those vaccines you just named are also on the children's schedule here in America before the age of 2 years old. So some of them start at day one of birth, which is the hepatitis B vaccine here in America. You have to be injected with that day one of birth within 24 hours. And then all the other ones start at basically 4 months and 6 months old. So the same deadline within the first 2 years of life, you need to vaccinate your kids. Okay, I need to explain something to all of you parents. There is a reason you're concerned about this. It's because it is illogical and something seems very wrong about this recommendation. And it is true, your motherly parental instincts, your gut feelings, you should trust. You should always trust your intuition. You birthed that kid. Nobody has more spiritual ties, emotional ties to that kid than you, mom. So your questions and your worries and concerns are very valid. All right, so number one, in order to be able to have a very strong dialogue with your medical doctors who are telling you you got to vaccinate all your babies before the age of 2 with all of these 29 different shots, I need to explain something to you. Your medical doctor knows, but hasn't really used common sense or rationale thinking yet to figure out that this is actually a terrible idea to vaccinate anybody before the age of 2 years old. So, Shelly, for all of you at home who may not know a whole lot, first thing I would tell you all is when your medical doctor tells you you need to vaccinate your baby with the hepatitis B vaccine, the flu vaccine, the polio vaccine, the whatever vaccine, all these ones you just named. When they say that to you, I want you to look at your medical doctor and go, thank you, medical doctor, for telling me that my kid needs these vaccines. Can you please name 5 of the ingredients in each one of those vaccines off the top of your head and explain to me how they help my kid beat those infections? Now, you, not even knowing anything, just pretend you don't know anything. I just want you to put it back on them and act like you still don't know anything. Doctor, can you please tell me, without looking it up, name 5 of the ingredients in any of those vaccines that you're telling me my kid needs that will benefit his health and how those ingredients are going to help them. For example, did you know that in the hepatitis B vaccine, which all of you are being told to make sure your kid gets before the age of 2, did you know that the hepatitis B vaccine, that there's 5 of those and did 5 different ones? And did you know that 2 of the 5 actually have something called polysorbate 80 in them that damages the brain and causes obesity for generations? It's a known obesogen. Did you know that one of the 5 actually has the first ingredient, meaning it that has the most of this ingredient than any other ingredient, is MRC-5? And Shelly, do you know what MRC-5 is?
I think I do, but I would like for you to tell us, please. I think you can say it a lot better than me.
Yeah, so they'll give these acronyms, these abbreviations, MRC-5. Go look it up. Go look it up on the internet. MRC-5 is the first ingredient in one of the hepatitis B vaccines. Israel's going to tell you you need to get your kids before the age of 2. Well, inside that vaccine, that ingredient, MRC-5, is a code for the lung tissue of a murdered baby at 14 weeks old that was aborted out of its mother and killed in 1969. Then I'd like to ask you, hepatitis B is a liver infection in the liver. Why are you injecting lung tissue of a dead baby from 5 decades ago? And how in the world does that help your kid beat hepatitis? Okay, these are the kind of questions you need to ask your medical doctor. Hey, doc, thank you for telling me my kid needs this. Can you please tell me 5, off the top of your head, ingredients inside each of those vaccines you're telling me my kid needs so that I know you know what you're talking about? So teach me. I'm the mom of this little kid. I don't know anything. Tell me 5 ingredients in each of those vaccines off the top of your head that you know benefit my kid's health. And just so you know, none of them are going to be able to give it to you. None of them know. All of them just blindly trust the pharmaceutical industry to give you the shots and that they're giving you good ingredients that work. They don't know anything about it. And if they don't know anything that's inside those shots, why would you ever trust them to inject it inside of your baby? Number two, Shelly, every one of you listen to me, moms. Every single human being, including you listening, did you know that your brain, when you're born, and your nervous system that the brain controls, did you know that your brain and your nervous system is the last thing to fully develop after you're born? It's never fully developed when you're all born, even if you go to full term. Your baby, including you when you were a baby, your brain, your spinal cord, and your nervous system, which is controlled by your brain and your spinal cord, and also makes up your immune system. Did you know it's not fully developed until after you're 2 years old? Now, this is a problem.
Oh.
They're telling you to inject your baby with vaccines to help your baby's immune system, which is not fully developed, nor can it make its own antibodies until after you're 2 years old. This is very true. The human body does not develop an immune system until after it's 2 years old. All of its antibodies to fight infections like hepatitis, polio, the flu, all these things you're telling you to vaccinate your kids for, your baby doesn't even make antibodies from its immune system until after it's 2 years old. So why would you ever inject a baby with anything, even trying to convince the parents that this is a good idea to help the kid make lifelong immunity or antibodies towards a virus or bacteria, if that immune system can't even make those things until after it's 2? This is very, very important.
Yeah.
Every human being in the world, what I believe was created by God, or any of you out there that believe in evolution, you evolved this way, the human species. The babies of humans do not make their own immunity or immune cells to fight infections until after it's 2 years old. So where, Shelley, as God or nature designed it, where do babies get their antibodies to fight any virus or bacteria before the age of 2 to keep them healthy? Where would they get those from?
They would, okay, I'm just guessing they probably get sick, with the cold or something, and then they will get better and get their immune system back up.
Very true. All right. So they cannot make their own antibodies to fight infections until after they're 2 years old. So in that first 2 years, how could they get better from the flu or a common cold? Well, I'm going to explain it to you. It's okay. God or Mother Nature created it this way. Did you know that you, the mama who gave birth to the kid, do you know that that mama is producing breast milk
Mhm.
for the baby? And do you know that that mama is older than 2 years old, which means she has an immune system that can produce antibodies to protect itself, the mom, and the baby from infections. And the mom's breast milk
Mhm.
pumps the antibodies into the baby for the first 2 years of life to protect that baby from any virus, bacteria, fungi, or parasite. Now, this is important, everybody. This is how God designed all mammals. And watch, all mammals on earth, when they give birth to their babies, those babies rely on the mama's milk for the first year, 2 year of life. All of them do. Now, man has figured out how to make fake milk called formula. So you can just put it in a bottle and feed your kids. But that's not how God or Mother Nature designed all mammals, including humans. Human mothers of babies that you're being told need vaccines, 29 of them in the first 2 years of life. The mom who feeds the baby the breast milk is always in the same environment as the baby that it's feeding. Therefore, the mom is always breathing the same air, drinking the same water, in the same environment or home as the baby. So if there's mold in the air of the home, the mom inhales the mold, the mom makes antibodies to fight the fungus, And that fungus that the baby's also breathing, called mold, the mom produces the antibodies against the mold and pumps it into the baby to keep the baby healthy. The only time the baby in the first 2 years of life does not get antibodies to protect itself from the environment, from bugs like bacteria, virus, fungus, and parasites, is if the mom doesn't breastfeed them and instead gives them formula. There's no way the manufacturers of formulas are putting in antibodies to protect the babies. They don't even know what the baby's going to be exposed to. You have been designed, moms, to provide for the first 2 years of life all of your baby's immunity. And as the baby's brain, spinal cord, and nervous system is developing, after 2 years old, it's finally able to make all of its own antibodies for life against the flu, against polio, against hepatitis A, B, C, you name it, and against the flu and anything else they're telling you need a vaccine for. It is the worst idea on the planet to vaccinate a mammal that includes a human before the age of 2 years old. They don't even have an immune system to do that. This is why you see such horrific side effects and diseases in babies that you give all these chemicals into. Their body doesn't know how to use it to produce an artificial infection, which is what the vaccine's attempting to do, give you an artificial little bit of an infection to make antibodies against. It's the most dumb thing ever for science and medicine to tell you you should vaccinate any human before the age of 2. Their body doesn't even know how to make antibodies from the vaccine ingredients until after they're 2 years old. So everybody in Israel, please tell your medical doctor when they say your kid needs 29 different vaccines before the age of 2, tell them, thank you, no thank you. We will wait until he's 2 years old and can do anything in his body with that vaccine you're telling me he needs. I mean, the first thing is to put him off. And then over the next 2 years, Mom, you need to hang out with Dr. Artis and Shelley and learn all the things about these vaccines and how they injure the body, create risk of disease and symptoms forevermore. So I have, here in North America, I'm here, y'all are in Israel and all around. I have 5 children, Shelley. 4 of them are adults, and none of them have ever been vaccinated, ever.
Wow.
Now, they've all been in public school, universities, and none of them are sick. None of them have diseases that they've been medically diagnosed with, and none of them are on prescription medications. And none of them have ever gotten polio. None of them have ever gotten measles. None of them have ever gotten hepatitis. They're all completely healthy humans. Why? I didn't introduce poisons like formaldehyde, aluminum, abortal fetal tissue in a syringe in the form of vaccines into my baby before their immune system knew how to detox it or use it appropriately, as medicine wants you to believe vaccines do.
Right, right, amazing. Thank you for that. And just on the same question, like what kind of long-term risk do you see with giving infants so many vaccines so early, before their immune system is even developed?
Yeah, this is a great question. So, Dr. Brian Hooker, remember I said if I don't know something, I'll tell you I don't know. I know this one. All right, so Dr. Brian Hooker, he's a professor at a university in California. He also does work for Children's Health Defense, which was Bobby Kennedy, the secretary of the HHS in America. It was his company he started called Children's Health Defense. Brian Hooker published in 2021 or 2022 a research study where they sent surveys to 9,000 pediatrician offices. He wanted to know of your children in your practice who have been vaccinated at all or those who have not been vaccinated. We have these questions about all of your patients' health. And they got over 8,000 responses back from these pediatric offices. And they were able to publish a study comparing the vaccinated children before the age of 2 and after, and those who have never been vaccinated. What's the health difference? And this is what they published. All kids in America that get vaccinated on schedule have 25 times more double ear infections chronically that reoccur. They have 20 times more asthma diagnosed and living with asthma inhalers compared to those kids who don't get vaccinated. There's a 5 times more occurrence in the vaccinated to develop autism and be diagnosed with it than those who don't get vaccinated. Allergies were 15 times more, all allergies, including food allergies, in the vaccinated children versus those that don't get vaccinated. In every aspect of health, children not vaccinated at all had much better health outcomes than all vaccinated groups of children.
Yeah, thank you. And I wanted to get to the ingredients in the vaccine because you mentioned that a few times, like aborted fetal cells, MRC-5, animal DNA. I
Absolutely.
even heard you talk about in another interview. I heard you talk about Cocker Spaniel kidney cells in the flu vaccines, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. So right now, all of you in Israel, just know, even in America, they tell us that every child starting at 6 months old and until we die in America, we're supposed to get one flu shot every year of our whole life. Now, Israel, you may not know this, but even in America, there are 9 different flu vaccines every year. 9 different ones made by 9 different companies. So when your medical doctor looks at you in Israel and says, "Hey, mama, hey, daddy, you need to give your baby the flu vaccine," uh, you should look at your medical doctor and go like this: "Hey, doc, which one of the 9 do you carry in this office?" And just so you know, your medical doctor is going to get pissed because they didn't even know there was 9. They're going to realize with your question, you know more than they do about flu vaccines, and it's going to make them really angry. So you're going to look at them and say, "Thank you, doc. I appreciate you telling me that. Which one of the 9 do you carry here?" Now, this is important because one of those 9, the first ingredient is in it is what Shelley just quoted. It's called, and it's actually on the package insert and on the label, inside the flu vaccine is Medine Darby canine kidney cells. Now, canine is Latin for dog. Kidneys are English for your kidneys. So these are dog kidney cells. What I had to look up was, what is Medine Darby? That's the scientific name for the breed of dog we all know as Cocker Spaniels. So one of the flu vaccines has kidney cells from a Cocker Spaniel is the first ingredient in a flu vaccine. And then my question for you at home is this, mom and dad: what kind of infection is the flu virus? Is it a kidney infection or a lung infection?
right, exactly.
It's a lung infection. They call the flu a respiratory disease. So I have a question for all of you out there. How do kidney cells of a dog help prevent you from getting a respiratory virus called the flu? You should ask your medical doctor if Cocker Spaniel kidney cells are right for your kid when they tell you your child needs the flu vaccine. And if they don't know which brand it is, I would just stand there and go, "Well, I know one of them has Cocker Spaniel kidney cells. I watched Shelley's interview of Dr. Artis. I know it's in there. Which one do you have?" And the other ones all contain all of them. 7 out of the 9 have polysorbate 80, which is published. Polysorbate 80 is published in 7 of 9 flu vaccines to cause your spine of your children to deteriorate and lead to scoliosis. That is published that it does that. It also punches holes in your blood-brain barrier to allow the aluminum in most of those vaccines to cause neurological damage to your children.
Wow, no
They
way.
also, 6 of the 9 flu vaccines have a antibiotic which does not treat viruses, which the flu is a virus. Antibiotics only treat bacteria. But in 6 of the 9 flu vaccines is an antibiotic for bacterial infections called neomycin and kanamycin. Neomycin. And kanamycin, Kanamycin. Did you know, Shelley, that those 2 ingredients are published? You can look it up on the internet. What are the side effects of neomycin and kanamycin in humans? And they tell you these drugs can cause cardiac arrest, respiratory failure, and death. Oh, really? That's in 6 of the 9 flu vaccines? And how many times do you have to hear in the last 30 years that a lot of babies are found dead in their crib, and they call it SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome? Well, the ingredients in the flu vaccine alone that we're all told you need to give your kids before the age of 2 years old in America and in Israel, these chemicals are in 6 of the 9. Well, as a parent, wouldn't you like to know which one of the flu vaccine brands your doctor is telling you to take? And wouldn't you like to do a little bit of research to figure out which chemicals are in which brands so you can look at your medical doctor and go like this? Well, as long as you have the flu vaccines that don't carry Cocker Spaniel kidney cells, don't have polysorbate 80, and don't have neomycin or kanamycin. And by the way, neomycin and kanamycin, the first thing I learned about these chemicals in 6 of the 9 flu vaccines that even in Israel are showing up in your kids. Did you know neomycin and kanamycin is published to cause lifelong tinnitus, ringing in your ears? And they state in medical research studies, the ringing in the ears is so intense, it will lead to most people within 48 hours, the tinnitus ringing will be so intense, it will kill the nerve and they will be deaf for life. Well, ask your doctor if Cocker Spaniel kidney cells and spinal cord destroying polysorbate 80 or deaf causing cardiac arrest, respiratory failure causing neomycin or kanamycin are right for you and your baby. Because you need to educate them on stuff they haven't been told, educated on, or took the time to research on your behalf or your children's behalf. And I, for the last 25 years, my oldest kid is 25, I decided 25 years ago to study what's in all the shots that they were telling me my kids needed. I was a new parent and I didn't know. So I went and researched what the CDC and what published medical research studies said about all the ingredients in these shots. And 25 years ago, I decided I wasn't vaccinating any of my kids. I saw the risk for injuries, diseases, and lifelong symptoms was more if I gave them the shots than the published efficacy or ability of vaccines to work to prevent infections. So for me, it was an easy call. It didn't matter what anybody said to me 25 years ago or in the last 25 years. You were never going to convince me to vaccinate any of my kids. And none of my kids have any of the issues I just told you. None of them walk around with an asthma inhaler. None of them have an EpiPen afraid of food allergies. All of these are created for many children and adults lifelong are created by the toxic chemicals inside the vaccines you are flippantly being told by your medical doctors all your children need by the age of 2.
Not only by the doctors in Israel, they constantly scaring the public on the mainstream media. Right now, they talk about not before the war in Iran. They were talking about the new pandemic of measles in Israel, and I right away I had to publish something. You know, I saw RFK Jr. talking about measles, how they used to like give it to each other as kids, so they just get immune to it. That it's not a serious disease because
It's not a deadly disease.
yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so for measles, hey, Israel. Hey, Shelly. Is there a vegetable in Israel called garlic?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did you know that garlic was published in 2020 and in 2021, 5 years and 4 years ago? Do you know it was published by the National Institutes of Health in America that measles can be prevented if you just eat garlic? And if you have a measles infection and you eat garlic, it is a known published treatment cure for the measles.
Wow.
And then my question for you is this: if garlic's available in Israel, why didn't the news tell you that?
Because it's not owned by big pharma, probably.
It is definitely not owned by Big Pharma.
Yeah, for sure. And about people that are already been suffering from vaccine injury. One of them is actually my mother. Unfortunately, what would you suggest? There is so many different vaccine injuries. I know there's like neurological, physical. What kind of
Mental.
advice would you give somebody that's been harmed by vaccines? Where can they start to heal or do something to better themselves?
This is a great question, and thanks for asking it, Shelly. And I'm going to go ahead and say, hi, Mom. This is for you. All right, so I wrote a book. It is right now bestseller on Amazon around the world. It's called Moving Beyond the COVID-19 Lies. The subtitle is Restoring Health and Hope for Humanity. And it sounds like Mom needs some hope and healing, and she's a part of the humanity. So, the only reason why I wrote this book last year is because in 2024, early in 2024, the United States government published a document summarizing all the side effects of COVID long term and vaccine injuries. And they lump these all together and call them long COVID symptoms. If you received the vaccine for COVID, any of them, and you have health problems since, if any of you got COVID, were told you had COVID, and since then you have lingering health problems, they're all caused by the same thing. Whether vaccinated or not, if you have long term health problems since getting the vaccine or after getting COVID and you weren't vaccinated, but you still have lingering problems, all of your problems are caused by the same thing. There was a 5 different countries did 5 different DNA analysis on the blood, urine, and feces of COVID suffering patients and vaccinated for COVID patients. And they all found that in every one of their bodies was a combined 36 different poisons being produced by bacteria and yeast in the body of the patient.
Wow.
And this is why they never got over their symptoms. Those 36 different poisons, I actually show you from the lab research study the published names of all those poisons and what they are identical to in nature. It's really disgusting, but every single COVID 19 patient who had loss of taste and smell, ringing in their ears, low oxygen levels, brain fog, exercise induced asthma now, and whatever your symptoms your mother's having right now, all of those are actually published to be caused by a combined 36 different poisons that have been determined by DNA testing in 5 different labs in multiple countries. A combined 36 different animal venom proteins are being made in the bodies of all people with long COVID and been vaccinated for COVID. And
Animal venom?
until Yep. And until you kill the bacteria and yeast that have been programmed by the vaccines for COVID or by long COVID, you have bacteria and yeast in your body producing poisons identical to snake venoms, starfish venoms in the ocean, and cone snail venoms called conotoxins. And that's why you still have your symptoms. And this is why I wrote the book, because every single one of those 36 different poisons that were found to be identical to different venoms of creatures around the world, every single one of those venom proteins, called spike proteins that you heard in Israel, spike proteins are venom proteins, and every single one of those venom protein poisons that are making you sick and injured right now from vaccines are cured with natural compounds. And I name them all in my book. So, Shelly, let's do a quick summary here. Everybody needs to get the book. There's also an Audible version of the book. You should go get the Audible version. It's great. It's the #1 bestseller right now on Amazon. It's only been out for like 5 weeks. And then the book is on Amazon also. Go get the book and then give the book to your doctor so they know how to help you, because they've been lied to and censored from this information. Every medical doctor that's read the book is like, oh my God, you gave us, Dr. Ardis, the medical test to order. When the results come back positive, what are the antidotes in nature to cure them? And they're seeing amazing results. Can you tell me, Shelly, would you mind telling me what symptoms your mom's struggling with since getting the vaccines?
So after she got the third shot, she didn't listen to me. I tried to warn her, and she took the booster, and after the booster, she got a stroke, and now she is suffering with Alzheimer. It's been, I think, 3 years since the whole thing started. And I remember a year before she even got the vaccines, we traveled together to Greece in the middle of the pandemic. We came to Greece and we had a beautiful time together. She gave me a whole notebook, like a book this big that she herself wrote with her hand, like handwritten book with all kinds of like things that she studied and just like good words for me. And like I still have this book in my house, but like she was so sharp 1 year before she got the vaccine, and 1 year later now she can't write, she can't read, she can't even speak some of the time. She has a constant brain fog, and she can't even keep a sentence, like she just talks and she forgets what she was even talking about.
I'm very sorry. Okay, so each of these symptoms you just mentioned, I wrote about in the book, and I actually tell you the cures for all of those. Okay, so let's break these down a little bit. So for the stroke, that would be blocked oxygen to a part of the brain. So either from a blood clot, if she had blood clotting. Do you know if she had blood clotting?
They couldn't find anything in the hospital. They did a many tests on her. They kept her in the hospital for a week. They couldn't
Okay.
find anything.
All right. So number one, she needs to get two things. Okay. So everybody watching at home, of those 36 different poisons that those who received the vaccines for COVID, including the booster shots, you have these poisons inside your body that creates a stroke symptom, creates brain fog, creates asthma induced from exercise that you never had before, low oxygen levels, tinnitus, ringing in the ear, all kinds of stuff. So, what I recommend, number one, she needs to get on EDTA. And this is very important. And I go through this in the book why anybody experiencing neurological problems or damage from the vaccines or long COVID needs to be consuming EDTA. It can be given to you by a medical professional in the arm intravenously, but you can also take it orally. So, you need to get EDTA. Numero uno. Number two, did you know that EDTA is proven by itself to help reverse the side effects of a stroke in the brain? So that's why I'm telling you to get EDTA. Number two, brain fog. All the symptoms being caused by these poisons in the body that came from the booster shot. She needs to be on a nicotine product.
Okay.
She needs to either be on a nicotine patch. She needs to be on nicotine gum, nicotine mint, doesn't matter. I would recommend nicotine patch. And I would recommend the first week wearing a 3.5 milligram nicotine patch. Buy any size nicotine patch over the counter and cut them into little pieces that are about 3.5 milligram sizes. Have her wear one every day. I'll just tell you right now, all nicotine patches are only sold in 7, 14, and 21 milligram sizes.
Okay.
So any of you watching, you heard Dr. Ardis say 3.5 milligram doses of nicotine patches for the first week. Well, they don't sell 3.5 milligram nicotine patches. That means you have to get creative. You have to cut them into 3.5 milligram size. That's all I can tell you. Buy any size and cut them. If you bought 21 milligram patches, just cut them into 7 equal slivers and wear one a day for 7 days. At the end of 7 days, you're going to increase the dose to 7 milligrams a day and do that every single day forever. And I mean forever. And this you will see will create and reverse the brain fog. In fact, I wouldn't even be shocked if your mom starts talking again, writing again after 2 weeks of just doing these two things. I'm
Really?
not joking.
Wow.
And then the third thing and fourth thing I will tell you. And I did not put this in the book. One of them I did. These two are specific for your mom. Hi, Mom. All right, so here we go. Anybody out there with a stroke, neurological problems? The brain is being impacted by the poisons in the shots and the poison they called COVID. And they create long side effects of mental problems, neurological problems, like you're discussing, looks like a stroke in your mom. She needs to be on two things. And anybody out there, you need to remember these two. These are two nutrients found in nature and all of our food that you can buy in supplement form. The first is called inositol, inositol. It is a B vitamin that tastes like sugar. Everybody with neurological problems, with a stroke, without a stroke, it doesn't matter. Before COVID, after COVID, since COVID, you need to be on 2,000 milligrams every single day of inositol until you see your symptoms improve. The next thing she needs to be on is choline, choline. She needs to be on the nicotine patches to release the poisons from the nerves that actually only communicate for her to be able to talk and write with a chemical in the body that's supposed to be there moving, but the poisons of the shots block this chemical from moving. So now she can't talk, can't write, that kind of stuff. Acetylcholine is what you require in every nerve cell to control the function of the human body. For memory, speech, moving your hands, me talking, you need acetylcholine to do that. So The supplement is either called choline, CHOLINE, or CDP. Choline is a form of acetylcholine, or look up online acetylcholine supplements. And you need to be doing at least 1,000 milligrams a day of any of those. Nicotine patches, 3.5 milligrams for the first week, 7 milligrams after that forever, and that's every single day. They only last 24 hours. So at the end of 24 hours, peel off the old one, put on a new one. Then she needs to be on acetylcholine, 1,000 milligrams a day of some choline. And then she also needs to be on inositol, 2,000 milligrams. And then you need EDTA. Now, EDTA, I have EDTA on my website. If you guys have a hard time getting it from here to you, which we ship all around the world, you need to find another EDTA source there, or you call my team and we'll make sure we get it to you. But my oral EDTA is, I recommend for those who are injured, you do it every day until you see your symptoms improve. And it's 2 dropperfuls in the mouth. It doesn't have any taste. You just put 2 dropperfuls in your mouth when you first wake up and let it start detoxing the heavy metals and the poisons out of your body to help start healing the brain and the nervous system.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so much.
You're very
I
welcome.
really appreciate the tips for my mother. I didn't
You're
expect
very welcome.
that.
You're very welcome. Now, this
Um,
is true. It's going to be very hard for everybody to probably recognize if you haven't watched me for the last 5 years and you probably haven't read the book yet. There's an entire chapter called Just in the Nicotine of Time. In France, in April of 2020, it was discovered by research scientists in Paris why smokers never got COVID. And the reason it was found is that in tobacco is found a nutrient called nicotine. Nicotine was always known by Big Pharma and the governments of the world to be the antidote to COVID-19 and the vaccines. So
really?
they didn't want you to know that. So they lied to you this whole time and said smokers and those that use tobacco products are at the highest risk for getting COVID, dying from COVID, being hospitalized for COVID. And that is the absolute opposite of truth. The truth is, any tobacco users never got COVID and were the least affected to get COVID, test positive for COVID, end up in a hospital, or die. It's the least demographic in the whole world. And this is why Big Pharma is convincing right now, even Israel, to ban tobacco and nicotine products by the year 2030. In fact, they have 200 countries on the list that Big Pharma is paying bribes to all those governments to ban tobacco and nicotine in favor of vaccines. Because nicotine in tobacco is a cure for almost every disease they have a vaccine for. And they've known it for 500 years.
No way.
Yes way. And you should go to the drartistshow.com and watch the presentation I just filmed called Why Big Pharma is Bribing All Governments of the World to Ban Tobacco the Plant and Nicotine Agents. And I show you all the medical textbooks for the last 500 years and all the diseases they know tobacco cures by itself. And everybody knew it was nicotine in the tobacco plant the whole time. This is
That
why they hate nicotine.
Yeah. There was a very bad stigma for nicotine, and I hear you. A lot of people hear about you talking about nicotine and how it's beneficial. And
It is transforming lives. Nicotine in the tobacco plant is known to help reverse and cure Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, all arthritises, including psoriatic, gouty arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, osteoarthritis. Nicotine's a cure for that. It's also a cure for ulcerative colitis, digestive autoimmune diseases. It's also known to reverse heart damage from heart attacks and myocarditis from the shots, actually. In 3 days, nicotine reverses it. It also shrinks brain tumors. This is why they hate it. The big pharma is selling drugs to all of us for all of these conditions. But tobacco and nicotine can be bought over the counter, and that's a threat to the pharmaceutical industry. They're all about profits, and they're stakeholders and stockholders. So they need profits. They need a bunch of them, and they cannot stand that a plant God made can prevent all these conditions they want to sell you drugs for instead.
uh, thank you. And what kind of how would you recommend to use nicotine? Just the patch, or is there any other way that you should probably not smoking? Because
Yeah, I never recommend smoking personally, ever. So I'm currently wearing a 3.5 milligram nicotine patch right now. And I've been doing it every day for 3.5 years, and I will wear a 3.5 or 7 milligram nicotine patch every day the rest of my life. I mean, every day. It'll just be a no brainer. And I never got COVID, never had a symptom of COVID, never tested positive for COVID, never had a vaccine for COVID, and I've never been sick. I just do it all the time. It's amazing. So I recommend patches and low doses. So I always recommend starting with 1 to 3 milligrams for the first week for anybody who hasn't ever used tobacco products or nicotine products in the past, because nicotine detoxes a lot of poison out of the body that we've been accumulating our whole life from vaccines, artificial processed foods, pesticides like glyphosate. When you introduce nicotine into the body by mouth, by patch form, this is the only difference. Patches deliver the nicotine over a 24-hour period slowly into your bloodstream. So it's less detoxing at a lower speed. If you put it in your mouth in a gum form, only buy the lowest dose gum form, which is 2 milligrams. Don't ever buy the 4 milligrams, only do 2. And if you start chewing it, start getting nauseous, spit it out and wait till the next day and bite it in half and try to do only 1 milligram for the first week and then go up. It's a detoxing thing. It's no different than if you had parasites and I gave you a bunch of stuff to kill parasites. You're going to feel really sick immediately with the die off of the parasites. You're going to feel sick, nauseous, diarrhea if I give you too much detoxing agents for parasite worms. No different with nicotine. It's a very powerful detoxing agent. If I do it oral, I'll get a little nauseous and dizzy, so I don't do it. I just prefer the patches, and I've never had those symptoms. But 90% of all humans, if they do it oral, nicotine pouch, snuff, even dip, it doesn't matter. They don't ever get sick. It's really interesting. I just don't. I do for some reason. I get a little nauseous. I don't vomit or get diarrhea, but I feel like it a little. Well, I don't want to feel that way. So I just use the nicotine patches, and it's very slow, controlled release of nicotine over a 24-hour period. And I've felt nothing but great ever since I used those. So you can use nicotine mint, what's called snus, SNUS, which is tobacco chopped up in little bitty pieces, put into a pouch you suck on. Those are the things that you can do. So I just always recommend for the first week, start on a low dose, 1 milligram to 3 milligram. Do that for a whole week before you go to a higher dose.
Interesting, amazing. And you mentioned parasites. Can you give me like a very short, maybe protocol for how to cleanse the parasites?
Yes, I can. All right. So this is very, very good. All right. So parasites, there's 4 major kind of parasites that all people in America, including Israel, you get, and you probably have. 90% of all humans in the world, parasitologists say, 90% of all humanity has parasites. The 4 major types are tapeworms, roundworms, flukes, and protozoa. All right. So how do you get rid of those? Well, there was a scientist in Canada in 1992 who wrote a book titled How to Cure All Cancers. And she cured 100 different cancers in 5 days that were called cancers, but she already found they all had parasites in their liver being misdiagnosed as cancer. And she gave them just 3 nutrients, Shelly: red clover, green walnut hull extract, and sweet wormwood, which wormwood is the plant that has the same action as ivermectin, the drug. And she gave them these 3 plants for 5 days and cured 100% of 100 different cancers in 5 days. So
Wow.
those are some of the plants we use. Dandelion root is another. I have a product on my website called Biodefense. It's actually what I use to help clear the bacteria and yeast in the vaccinated that cause long-term health effects. It wipes out bacteria and yeast, and it's a combination of pepper called piperine, black cumin seed oil, peppermint, and spearmint oil. And each of these plant extracts in combination kill all 4 major types of parasites, wipe out disease-causing bacteria, and wipe out disease-causing fungi and candida. So those are some of the plants I use and formulate for my audiences here and around the world. And then those same plants can be purchased at any health food store in Israel, I'm sure. So those are some of the plants you use to actually wipe out parasites out of the human body.
Wow, this is very insightful. Thank you. I appreciate
You're
it.
very welcome.
Just a couple more last questions,
Sure.
and we can wrap it up. because I think this is also something that a lot of people are facing nowadays. There is all over the world, there is corruption in the medical system. So, what would you suggest to the average person today? What can they do to find a trustworthy doctor? Do you think that there is any signs they should look out for, or just run away every time somebody says they need to vaccinate, or like what can you do? Because there is so many doctors out there. How can you find a good one?
Yeah, the first thing you want to know is you want to ask the medical doctor or the staff of that office, how do you feel about parents or individuals who elect not to vaccinate themselves or their kids? How do you treat them? And if they say, uh, well, you'll know based on their answer if you want to keep going there or not. But if the staff and the medical doctors say to you, oh, we allow people to make that decision on their own. We believe people should make that choice of what they want to put in and out of their body. That's the first people you want to look for. You want to look for medical doctors who actually believe and trust that individuals have the right to make choices of what they put in their body first. So, informed consent is the term. Informed consent means the medical professional and the staff of that office believe it is best to give you all the information you ask for so that you can make a educated decision on behalf of your children and your family. And you want to ask them, uh, how are you going to treat me if I decide not to take a medicine you prescribe me, medical doctor? If you say to me I have high cholesterol and I need to take a cholesterol drug, are you going to tell me if I don't take it or tell you I'd rather do something natural or change my diet? Are you going to tell me that I'm now fired from your practice? Or are you going to support me? You want somebody that's going to work with you. And I just need to tell you all, you as an individual, as an adult, you know your body and you have all the rights to dictate what you feed yourself and put in your body as medicine. You control your health, not a medical doctor, not anybody outside of you, only you do. When it comes to your kids, nobody on the earth has the right to tell you what you have to do to your kids other than you. Those kids have been entrusted to you. They are in your life and in your home, and you get to decide ultimately what it is that your children receive or don't receive in the form of medicine. So that's the very first thing is how do you treat patients who either decide to do things naturally, get education through diet and nutrition, versus drugs? Are you going to punish me, belittle me, shame me if I tell you I don't want a specific medicine or a drug? Or will you work with me if I have hesitations around certain medications? That would be the very first thing that I would recommend. Because truly, every medical doctor is supposed to be taking a Hippocratic oath to do no harm. And if the patient itself believes something they're telling you is going to cause harm, you should be able to say no. And they should honor that.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend first.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and
Very
just
well.
last question. If you had 30 seconds to tell every person in the world the truth about the medical system, what would you say?
The very first truth would be this. For all of you out there, there's two types of people out there. Those who believe in a God and a creator, and those who believe in evolution and science, right? They believe we evolved to be this amazing organism in evolution. All right, so all of you at home, if you're an evolutionist or you're a creationist, you believe there's a God or you believe there's science and man and evolution. Both of you should be angry at everything the medical profession tells you. They tell you that you need vaccines for this body, this most advanced organism, evolutionist. They tell you this thing only advanced to be superior to all other animals except with an immune system. You all need vaccines. Wait. No. No, if this thing advanced to be the greatest organism on the planet of all other animals, that means it had to figure out how to survive all these viruses, bacteria, fungi, and parasites that all animals on the earth, like bats, are spreading to you like COVID. That the human body had to evolve to have an immune system to be superior to all other creatures. So you should be pissed off too if you're listening to medical doctors tell you, you evolved to be the greatest species on earth, except you forgot an immune system and you need our vaccines. No. You should be more mad than the creationists. Creationists believe God made the human body perfectly. Well, I want to remind you, he did make you perfectly, and that includes your immune system. So please educate yourself on how the human body is designed. Whether you're an evolutionist or a creationist, you should study how the human body is designed. And then you need to recognize that everything you study on how everything in the human body works and functions, it doesn't matter what diagram you look at to figure out how the brain produces speech, how the brain produces movement, how the digestive tract breaks down food and absorbs nutrients. If you look at every pathway of how those things happen in the human body, there are no drugs in those pathways. They're all nutrients found in plants. They're all the elements on the periodic table of elements: magnesium, zinc, selenium, iodine, which is found in the dirt, that's found in your plants. That's how the human body operates. You need to go back and educate yourself on the periodic table of elements. You need to research how the human body is designed in all your organs, and then go look at a few of the pathways, like how every cell in the human body makes energy. Well, the body doesn't make energy from caffeine. No, it makes energy from copper, and every cell in your body takes copper from your plants that you eat, and it turns it into ATP for energy. So this is, and then it brings vitality and energy. And then every cell in the human body, like I just mentioned, you will learn, every cell in the brain, heart, bowels, all of them have nicotine receptors on them. And if they all have nicotine receptors that turn on the cell to function normally as God or evolution designed, I need to ask you something. Where do we get nicotine from in life to turn all those cells on if it's not from tobacco? Did you know that tobacco is a part of the nightshade vegetable group? And did you know that eggplant is the second highest nicotine containing plant on earth?
Wow.
And that red tomatoes are the third highest nicotine containing plant on earth, which means your tomatoes and your ketchup has nicotine in it. And then did you know that green tomatoes have 10 times more nicotine than red tomatoes?
Wow.
And did you know that white potatoes are the fourth highest containing nicotine on earth? And did you know cauliflower, celery, and bell peppers all have nicotine? The human body needs nicotine. We've been lied to that nicotine is a drug. It is not a drug. It's a nutrient found in a whole bunch of vegetables and plants that God designed, Mother Nature designed, and that your body is designed to benefit off of. But what does Big Pharma want you to believe? Nicotine's a drug and it's bad for you and it's super addictive. Oh, yeah? Well, how many of you are addicted to eggplant? How many of you are addicted to tomatoes? Like you break out in night sweats at night and wake up having to go outside and eat a tomato, or ask your boss for a tomato break because you're so addicted to tomatoes. None of you. That's not true. We've all been lied to. So you need to research the human body. As you gain knowledge, your ability to hold really powerful conversations with medical professionals and health authority figures goes up. And then fear, anxiety goes away with the more information you learn. And I would recommend all of you read my book and then follow the Dr. Ardis Show. We'll send you emails each week. I do one show a week where I educate you on something the medical profession wants you to believe. And then I show you what the medical profession has already figured out from science is the natural cures in nature. But that's not what your medical doctors tell you. Wouldn't you like to know? Those things that have less side effects and risk in nature that can help benefit and improve your life. My goal is to help free you of symptoms and the bondage of pharmaceuticals.
Amazing. I'm signing up for sure.
Come
Thank you
on.
so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ardis. It's been a pleasure, an honor to have you on our show. So insightful, amazing. I'm mind blown right now.
Well, Shelly, it's my honor, and all of you at home, I just want you to know, wherever you are in the world, even if you're in Israel, I love you, and I'm sorry that you've been lied to, manipulated, and brainwashed to believe that you can't trust your own body to do what it's designed to do in favor of profit from drug companies to sell you something that they believe they figured out how to make what God designed better. Man is literally trying to convince you all day long that God's design sucks. It's not really evolved for you evolutionists to be greater than all other species. You need all the drugs. Notice no other mammals on earth have pharmacies they have to go to get drugs to live. It's only human beings. We are super easy to program, manipulate, and control. And they do it through the media, through the radio, and through our families now, and through shame, judgment, belittling, demeaning, and gaslighting. You don't need to fall victim to that. Put your faith back in nature and in God's creation, and stay intuitive. Pay attention to how your body feels. No one knows more about your body and how it reacts to things more than you do. Not even me. Not even your medical doctor. No one knows better than you how you're feeling and how life, the environment, foods, what you drink, how it impacts your life and your health.
I'm speechless. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Well, you're awesome. I'm very proud of you for even having a podcast and trying to educate people in your area and around the world, man. It's awesome. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful night.
You're very welcome. God bless you all. Goodbye. Till next time.
Until next time.